Hi there, this is Tom Lee. I'm the Chief Investment Officer of Fundstrat Capital and this Chief Portfolio Manager for Fundstrat's U.S. Large Cap Granny Shots ETF, ticker GRNY. This is our update for the week of July 22nd. First, let me start with some particulars. As of July 21st, the price of Granny Shots was $23.18, net asset value of $23.14, and total assets of $1.875 billion. For the past week, Granny Shots was up 1.31% compared to a 1.2% gain, 1.2 on an NAV basis. The S&P was up 0.61%, meaning Granny Shots' relative performance was positive 66 basis points. Year to date, Granny Shots is up 15.95% compared to a 7.9% gain for the S&P, or relative outperformance of 797 basis points. I wanted to start with some macro because we're in the third week of July, and July is generally a quiet month. But let's walk through this. We have the July 9th tariff exemptions that passed without too much market turmoil. We had the June core CPI, which came out on June 15th, and while the markets initially swooned on it, it ended up being a sigh of relief because actually the underlying trend for inflation is lower. Now, we are in the middle of 2Q25 earnings this week. It really starts in earnest last week, and this week is about 112 companies. As you can see on this chart, it's really the following week that is the heaviest week for earnings. So far, so good. Of the 12% of companies that have reported, 86% are beating numbers by an average of 8%. Now, if you add that 8% to the 5%, 5.8% initial expectations for earnings, it's a double-digit earnings quarter, which is good. There are Granny Shots reporting this week. Tuesday after the close, Intuitive Surgical. Wednesday before the open, GE Vernova. Tesla and Alphabet after the close. And then on SMID Grannies, which is incidentally a Fundstrat product, which is in light blue, you can see there's a couple of names. There has been macro this week. It's mostly been regional manufacturing data. And Fed Chair Powell spoke on Tuesday, but the real sort of Fed watch is next week when the FOMC makes its rate decision. Nobody expects the Fed to make a cut, but they do want to hear guidance about how they're thinking about inflation and when they may start cutting. And of course, we have favorable July seasonals. So let's talk about stock performance. For the past week, the top 5 Granny performers were AMD, Oracle, Palo Alto, Google, Alphabet, and NVDA. By the way, these are all just AI-related names, so I'd say that that's probably the common thread there. And the bottom 5 performers were shown here: Netflix, Costco, MicroStrategy, Amex, Abbott Labs. Part of this is just related to earnings. For instance, on Abbott Labs, they talk about the tariff hit they're taking. And on American Express, the hit they're possibly taking actually relates to JP Morgan unveiling or improving the premiumness of their own stock. By the way, JP Morgan is a Granny Shot. There's earnings this week. I guess I just want to keep all that in mind, but that's it for now. So I'd say it's a quiet July, but the July favorable seasonals are what you should kind of keep in the back of your head. Thanks for listening, and I'll speak to you soon.